Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're getting semi-regular with this, so I don't know if it's a show or I don't know what's going on, but we're doing it more regular. I'm here with Lee again, and I'm going to paint over this incredible model. What is it from Slow? I got to get the name right. There's so many names. With this, so I don't know if it's a show or I don't know what's. Wait.
Just getting you through on the my phone. Yeah, I think
want
this
to get
is
his name right. Yeah, Slow Painter LOZ on Twitter. And how have you been, Lee?
Yeah, same as last week. Waking up, eating, walking, painting. I did finish my 85th Titan, so that's woohoo!
That's an achievement. They give you you need some sort of badge for that. I can't imagine there's too many people in the world who finished 85 Titans. That's got to be a small list.
Well, I'd assume it's a small list, but yeah, it's as I've said before. I just love the game. I love the models, and when you set out having projects, because I've got like several like Astartes armies and stuff like that, and I don't do small projects, so I always sort of go out to expand and build upon. But yeah, the Titans really do. They look great once you've painted them all up into the colours that you want to do, and you can't really go wrong with that. And you're a happy camper at the end of the day. So it's all about enjoying your hobby.
That's for sure. I'm gonna talk just a moment about this one, and I know you were eating some food, so I'll give you a chance to get a couple bites in here, and I'm gonna talk a little about this because I wanted to be more prepared this time, and I isolated the model first, so you don't have to watch like a half hour of me tracing. So I erased. So far, I'm going to try to bring this on the screen right. Oh, this thing was so cool. So I chose this view, and I'll show later. I'll switch screens to the computer and show some other views just in case people didn't see this full thing on Twitter. And Slow Painter was kind of like inspired by Dune. So this is like a soul chamber, and you can't see it from here. But in the back of that, there is a psyker on a chair who's getting drained, and his like mouth is all lighting up and everything. And because when I was younger and I saw Dune, like that scene with the Traveler, I forget what the name was of them,
Navigator,
bringing them in and like sweeping and everything, and the colors that really stuck with me. It was one of those. It was like a key moment from like films or entertainment or whatever that just really stuck with you. And so I saw this last night, and I was kind of like, oh my gosh! I'm like, this thing is just amazing to me. And so I was like, okay, I have to do it on this live stream tomorrow. Oh wow! Hey, King Crimson joined us. Thanks for joining us.
Martin the Great Potato Mage as well.
Thank you. And I know who the Forge of Mars is, so we're good. What if we want to watch a half hour of you tracing? Well, I'm sure we'll just go in the past live streams, Martin, and you can get a good solid half hour of tracing.
Yes, the tracing archive, where all your dreams will come true.
So I'm still wondering on color, right? I put down, so it has the orange ground. I did notice when I zoomed in, the exhaust ports kind of have the blue, which makes sense because they're draining the energy, and he's doing blue energy for these. So at first when I saw this, I was going to have like a real light yellow coming out of the exhaust ports, and that's how my mind pictured it. But because it's blue on there, I'm going to try to push that out into blue. Now, the teal I figured would go good with the yellow and the orange because I was going to bring more ground. I already brought some more ground up just to give myself a clue. So I have that, and I don't know if it's teal. And the other one I was trying was more this color, so it'd be more dune desert. You know what I mean? It's kind of like your sky is reflecting and there's dust, and it's more that color. I did I want some brightness here. So I want a little bright because there's this piece right I want to have light shining right through. I don't know if you can see it.
Right
That middle
underneath it.
part. I want to have some light kind of coming through there somehow. And I
Hmm.
don't know if I'll be able to pull it off, but that's what popped to mind. So it's either this or like the blue. And see, here's the whole other thing. At this point, I usually put a layer on multiply over it. And I think this gets so dark right here, but I erase out. But I think I like it with the teal background on it. Because that one's a little too red. And so I think I'm going to end up doing this kind of teal background, and you can see, and what I'll do is right now it's light. When I go to dark, so now I'm going to erase some of it, and that's going to help make the whole model pop, and yet the darkness gets to wrap around it. So that's kind of
Hmm.
like my process on doing this. And in a little while, maybe like 10-15 minutes, I'll like show on the Twitter stream some of the other pictures, because this thing is just, I just love it. There's so many little like details. I just love the guy on top sitting on it, and it looks, I don't know, perfect to me for it.
It's like a church organist, but that's the sort of
Yeah,
the feel and look you get with most of the sort of Mechanicus machines. You always have this high tech, that looks low tech, and then you've got
yeah.
somebody who's turning a crank somewhere.
It's like all this stuff, and then it's manned by someone turning a crank. That's a good way to put it. I love the models, and even I'm sure some of this is like converted, but this guy just looking at the back, that Mechanicus, just that hunched feel. It looks very real to me. You know what I mean? Like you can
Mm.
see them sitting there, and this guy is just well done adjustments and stuff on this model.
Yeah, the guy on the back, I believe that's a conversion from an old Warhammer fantasy model, a Cairn Wraith.
Okay.
Because I did the same thing, where it was actually the author John French. He made a Magos by using the Cairn Wraith model and then like adding some like tendrils,
Yeah.
mechandrites, called, and painting it up like that. And so I copied it, and I'm sure a lot of other people have, because it looks cool. And when you incorporate it into a model like this as well, it just really adds. Because I love the way like the robes overhang the edge of
Yeah.
the actual
That's the
machine.
same thing I was taking. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, as Martin said in the I think in the chat, Clockwork Horses, which I love the Mechanicus and the Mechanicum. Like in the Heresy, I have a Mechanicum army, and it's full of
Okay.
Cybernetica robots and
That's
Skitari.
Yeah, that's
And
one of the ones. So I picked up my Necromunda game, and then I just, so when I was playing, you didn't have many, or at really, I don't know how many Mechanicus models, because it wasn't really a thing then. It was mostly Space Marines and like second edition and stuff like
yeah,
that. So, and then I saw these and I loved them. I saw the Iron Strider, so I bought that. I was like, I have no real use for it, but I want that model. And then I bought some Skitari, or I forget to pronounce the name. And then I
that's
also
hard.
got, they're not Mechanicus, but I got oh, what is the name? Oh, I'm gonna grab it right here. What is the name? I like these guys. Militarium Tempest Scions.
Yeah,
So I
the Tempestus Scions. They're
Tempestus Scions, yeah.
yeah, they're the updated versions of the old Imperial Stormtroopers. Obviously, they couldn't use like Imperial Stormtroopers as a name because some other franchise has that already.
Yeah.
So they've done away with the Stormtroopers, and they've now Tempestus Scions
Okay.
for them. Going back to what you were saying about the Iron Strider, the background behind that, I find it humorous and intriguing because in the story they gave to these amazing mechanical walkers that the Mechanicus have, is that they're powered by a perpetual motion.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I remember. I think we were talking about that in Discord or something. Keep going, please.
Mm. So with perpetual motion, that means it's got to keep moving. So they must have like huge sort of like farmyards of these things walking about
Yeah.
continually until they obviously eventually get blown up or die or anything like that. But it was just that whole idea of thinking like, well, how perpetual motion is something that's evaded humanity so far. It's nice to see that they made it in the sort of 30-40k they've discovered it, but is how do you stable these things? Because obviously they've got to keep walking. Once they start, they can't stop.
Yeah.
They have maybe little treadmills that keep them occupied for hours on end and powers electricity. So it's a win-win for the Mechanicus.
Martin says design thing of ancient technique with super futuristic technology is a great one. I agree. It's almost all of art. It's always like that contrast. It's like sweet and spicy. It's like cooking. It's like you get that right contrast and it works. King Crimson says, I like the Castellan. I can't pronounce that. Robots, I think.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. How do you say it, Lee?
It's a Castellan.
Castellan. See, that's why I'm glad to have you. Like, I have to learn all this the right language. So this is good.
Yeah. When they came out, a lot of the sort of the fans were calling them Metal Mickeys, because in the 80s there was a TV show called Metal Mickey about some suburban family that had a robot called Metal Mickey.
I never even heard of that.
But they're as a model, they're fun, and as they're saying, King was saying in the chat, it's sort of that retro 50s sort of like driving movie theater cheap Saturday afternoon movie of like some sci-fi movie, and that would be like the bad guy in it or something. But I love the whole aesthetic of the Guttari and the Mechanicus, and that's why on the Forge of Mars I have to really by default.
That's right.
I just love that whole.
Think of it until you said that.
Well, that's the thing, because it's it is such a great aesthetic, and I was so happy when they brought out a codex for them. And because I always thought for years that, because we had like Indian priests available for the Imperial Guard. And Tech Marines are a slightly different sort of thing, because they're like, obviously they're educated on Mars or on Forge Worlds. But I just thought, the Mechanicus, they make everything for the Imperium. So surely their codex should basically have everything available to them. They can have whatever they want, But obviously it wasn't to be, and they've got their own cool little unit. And I say Guttari are just awesome anyway. The Guttari Legions, just running around in their robes and their bionic legs.
Yeah, the robes get me. The cool robes, and then part of it always sparks my imagination, because it's like this: you can put hoses and wires on them, or distort them, or do whatever you want with them, and it works.
Yeah. Well, to say, it's like they're saying in the chat about having like little emotes put onto the faces of the Castellans, because there's a huge area where they're sort of it's maybe like some sort of like screen or visor over the internal workings, but everyone's been like putting like little emotes on there, and or doing like funny little eyes, or digital eyes. But that's the creativity of the hobby. People just do that, and it is a funny little thing to have on a model. Because everyone goes, "Oh, look, that's pretty cool."
The little touches, that's what personalizes them or something. Gosh, this thing is so cool. I mean, I don't think he just did this probably like for fun. I don't know what you would, but I would still be like, okay, well, you have to field that on the battlefield, even if it's in the back of the battle. Like, I always imagine, I was talking to someone else, how like in the olden days they'd have like the retinue for the whole army, so you'd have like literally civilians of other kinds doing stuff with the army. I always imagine some of that stuff behind like a 40k army.
Well, yeah, well, again, with like the Guttari, for example, with the Titan Legions, they have their own form of Guttari that operate with them.
Okay.
So in the lore, you basically, when you have Titan Legions go off to battle, like a Titan mana pool, which contains like 5 Titans going off to battle, they have in attendance a regiment or 2 of Skitari with them.
Yeah.
And they're running, yeah, and that's what you got to visualize. You've got a Titan striding through the battlefield or city urbanscape, and you've got Skitari running in their shadows, basically, with their little support vehicles and all that.
Yeah, to support, and for sure, it's just like tanks. People with infantry supports the tanks.
Kawhi Stellan. Thank you, Crimson. But yeah, it's the whole thing with the Mechanicus, because obviously from the heresy, it was before the heresy, it was Mechanicum, and then because of the heresy, and the leader of Mechanicum on Mars, the Fabricator General, Kelbor Howe, sided with Horus. Whereas his second
is that what went down? See, I was unaware of that history. Okay.
Yes, Horus promised him like access to on Mars. There's these vaults, the Myriavac vaults, where when the Emperor first went to Mars, he decided that, okay, I like what you've done with the place, but some of this technology is a little bit dodgy, and so that's going to go in a cave. 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 And he basically took away all this stuff and locked it up for later generations, for example. And so when Horus was planning his heresy, he was communicating with a ambassador from Mars called Regulus, who was like he's the mouthpiece of Mars, and basically he made an agreement with Kelbor Howe that you support me, I will give you the code to the vaults, and technology we give to you, and made it a bit sweeter for him. And so he just because of Mechanicus, they love a bit of tech.
For sure.
He agreed, but it caused the schism. Well, it's called the Schism of Mars because not all the Magos were involved in this, and obviously there was some who do believe the Omnissiah is the Emperor and the Emperor is the likewise. So they are one and the same. And it was the Fabricator Locum, the second in command, Kane. I can never remember his first name. It's Zoridus Kane, I think. And he got whisked away during the early days of the Martian Civil War by the Imperial Fists, because Dawn sent them there to reclaim some of the essential arms and equipment that they were sitting there in the factories. So Sigismund and Camber Diaz went out there with their sort of forces, had a bit of a fight with traitors and stuff, and basically just stole a whole load of armor and weapons and ammunition, along with the Fabricator General Locum Kane, and brought him back to Terra, where he basically set up shop, making machines, weaponry
for them. Okay, good. That caught me up on a bunch of stuff, because I was wondering. I listened to the Great Works of Call just like a little bit, so I'd listened to that audiobook, and I was going to get another one that's slightly based on Mechanicus. So I was trying to catch up on what was going on with them, just because I liked the look of the models.
Well, in the later heresy books, Belisarius Call is actually in them. He's a young
because he's old.
Obviously he's the big thing was in the 40k where he turned up and, hey, look, I've made all these Primaris that you asked me to make. But he was running around in the heresy, getting involved and doing stuff then. But I actually, as a character, I actually really like him, especially the Great Works. I actually really enjoyed that. That was a really good story.
He had a good personality for me. I was like, to catch. I had been out of it for a while, and just I wanted to like kind of see one character's perspective. So it was just like an interesting little, snippet there, and they had some interesting spots for when he was like talking to the emperor and stuff. So that was some good history. And then what you just talked about kind of helps fill me in on a big chunk.
I was just looking in the chat with Martin with engage protocol. Or honestly, that would be a good way to bring squats back. We have to reset the clock. Squats have been mentioned. It's always the way somebody brings squats into a conversation.
See, I used to think like squats would never come back, but then I saw the dwarves from Age of Sigmar, and I'm like, oh wow, they nailed a good aesthetic on that one. I thought
the squats are still about.
What was that?
They're actually in Necromunda.
Okay.
There's a squat character in Necromunda.
Oh, well, yeah, you're right. Yeah, because I did see the squat character in there. That's right.
See, I'm going to clear up something now as well, because there was always a story that the squat homeworld got eaten by Tyranids.
Oh, I heard that same thing at some point.
Not true. it was an off the cuff comment that somebody mentioned, and has since became like unofficial canon.
That'll be like what that should be like the clip for the show. Like, we break fake news. That's fake news. Like fake news alert. The squad homeworld is not gone.
But no, obviously they are just because they've been mentioned in like Imperial Guard codexes. I think they've even been mentioned in Space Marine Codex over the last few years. Abhumans, they're like the Ogrins. They're out there, but again, for the reasons they got rid of it.
Mentioning them, you know what I mean? Because like I said, I haven't been getting many of those books or anything, so that's interesting. Good to know.
I think they're just doing it to torment people.
Yeah, no, they might be, but I think to me, like especially from when I was into it, the little snippets about things that nothing would come of it till like a decade later. Sometimes, you know what I mean? It's funny, so it's just cool to put stuff in there,
No, definitely. And again, I think they were just trying to get away from. It sounds silly when you say it, but like get away from space dwarves. We've got space elves, space dwarves. Eventually, we got space skeletons.
Yeah.
The only sort of unique race, and I say this loosely, is the Tau.
Yeah, I got what you mean.
Because they're not a race that's based from fantasy. Yes, they have anime-based technology, but they are a unique race within the system. It's probably the only, because elves, Dark Elder, exist. Tyranids were obviously based on, alien.
I never even sent out a tweet that I was live. I'm going to do that now. I'm so bad at, like, I go live and I'm like, okay, I should communicate that to people. I did it earlier, but I forgot now.
I was in the middle of trying to cook, so I was like, I'm sure he's going to.
Hey, that's what this show's all about. We'll learn. And I think I'm like later, I'm like, okay, maybe we need some sort of title or something. I don't know. We're going to have to brainstorm.
I did actually, funnily enough, I was thinking about something like that yesterday, but that was yesterday. I can't remember what I did yesterday.
I know. And that's why I'm like, we'll just do, we'll do some. And then as things, as we keep going, I think something will just kind of come in naturally. Because me and
flying by the seat of our pants Wednesdays. It sounds
that's what we got going on. But like, I like doing that for right now because it gets me comfortable. I don't want to have to always be reliant on, okay, make sure you spend an hour prepping everything and make sure, like, I want to know, hey, if I just have to get online because I forgot something or something's out of order, I can just kind of get up and go. You know what I mean? So then I'm like, well, we'll start this way. And then, as things go, we'll just keep honing in and see what people like and everything like that. So let me get this tweet out. I feel like we already covered a bunch of good ground, and I mean, at part of it, I'm like, well, at least this is entertaining for me because I get to draw, I get to learn about a bunch of stuff. So I'm like, at least one viewer is engaged.
King Crimson with his current D&D character is an ancient ninja robot that speaks Japanese, and no one can understand her. I'm not sure if I mentioned it. I was doing a role-play game last year from a friend's birthday before one of the lockdowns. I think it was the November lockdown. And I was playing a Wookiee in a Star Wars game. And the only restriction I had was that I could only speak Wookiee. So I did for a weekend of campaigning. I was just going.
Yeah, you know you're bad when someone starts understanding you. Then you're like, oh no, we've gone too far.
I did get a one of the guys there who's playing, like, basically we were like buddied up sort of thing. He was sort of like a smuggler without a ship.
Yeah,
I was like a hired gun type Wookiee, and he would translate for me. And the thing was, he was putting on the voice of Korg from Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, piss off, Geist. He'd done that for the entire weekend, and it was hilarious. But I was just saying to him, like, I consider that every human, because all the other characters are human, that they all look the same to me. And so I basically just called them all Dave. So whenever you translate it, you go, oh, well, Dave over there, he did this.
That is some of the funny things you get when you do some role playing, is you get the carryovers that you don't see much elsewhere. But that's like a funny little gig. Just be like, yeah, they all look the same.
Yeah, they all look the same to me. I look different to all my race. What's wrong with you guys?
Yeah.
So we got on here with it's almost as nutty as Maiden Taiwan. Maiden Taiwan. That was actually quite good.
Yeah, that. Wait, what did he just say? Made in Taiwan is the name of the character? Yeah. Oh, that is a great one.
Weeb Space Commies. Now, as Tau, and I'm a Tau player as well. As I've said before, Tau was the reason I got back into the hobby. Because
really?
Yes. Because I took a sabbatical for about 5-6 years. Okay. So the late 90s, early 2000s, and then they brought Tau out, and I just thought, ooh, battle suits. I like the look of them.
Yeah. Wait, say that. When did the Tau come out?
2001, 2002.
Okay, so yeah, it's been
it was before I got married, so and
so it's been a long time now. Oh my god.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's almost 20 years. 20 years.
I'm older than I thought, because I was like, oh, these new things like the Tau, I really don't know them, and it's like 20 years old.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Oh no, I'm like aging out each show, realizing how old I am.
But I was in a Games Workshop, and one of the staff was there. There was a young mum, and she was choosing. She wanted to buy something for a kid who showed an interest in Games Workshop Warhammer and all that. And he was doing the old, you've got the Space Marines, they're the heroes, they're the big superhuman, and all that sort of thing. And then he's gone on to the Tau, and he's gone, they're basically space commies, space communists. And I thought, hold on a second.
Yeah.
They're not space communists, sort of thing. They're actually, the whole idea of them was obviously they were designed off of the Japanese aesthetic, especially like the Asagari foot soldiers for the Fire Warriors was one of the things they mentioned in the in White Dwarf when they released them. But it was, the whole, we, like the Ethereals, were the only ones who were allowed to engage in close combat.
Yeah.
Which was sort of, seen as an honourable thing. They were called honor blades for a reason. So I always thought, all right, they're going to go the way of the samurai, the Asagari foot soldiers.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay.
Infantry and stuff like that. But they've also taken from Latin American aesthetics as well, because one of the old Tau Va, the supreme leader of the Tau, when you read his stuff that he's got like this thing like the Spear of Duality or something like that, and that was actually taken from Aztec or Mayan background, because they believed a lot in the duality of spirit and stuff like that, and bits and pieces. So unfortunately, from where they started, they sort of didn't go the way you expected them to, because you did sort of expect them to be, a lot more sort of like Japanese.
Yeah, just influenced by that kind of look and feel, especially with those suits.
Yeah, but also include something else as well, because again, the Fire Warriors weren't allowed to engage in close combat, so that's why they always had overwhelming superior fire and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they just didn't. I think from when they started in the first codex, then they went to the second codex, and then it just sort of meandered in a totally different direction from there, which to me was a little bit of a well, not a mistake, but they could have expanded a lot more in one direction and got a lot more out of it.
Maybe did they launch and then got feedback and were like, oh, we should shift it, kind of deal?
You never know. Again, it's down to the writers involved, because all the writers they've got to, bless them, and it's a hard job being a codex writer, because you've got to regurgitate everything but then change it to keep it slightly different. James Hewitt, he was the guy who he doesn't work for Games Workshop anymore, but he worked for Mantic. He's got his own company now, but he was like the rules writers for Adeptus Titanicus. But he was saying on Twitter the other day, it's like, it's really hard to actually write the same thing but then change it to make it sound different, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and you're thinking like, well, this is this. Like he runs in and kicks someone in the face. How many times can I change that? And that's been in the last 3 codexes, sort of thing. It's a little thing, and it's actually quite hard to actually invent a new way of telling the same thing.
100%, because it's absolutely. I did not. And that job is like a tough one with that stuff, and you got to come up with good things. Martin says, I was still in high school back then. Feel old? Yeah, you were in high school when the Tau came out. Oh, yeah. Oh gosh. And that was like new. I'm like, I was like, I don't really know anything about the Tau. You know what I mean, as far as that, because I literally skipped that part of the lore. And what's funny is I'm like, now just talking, I realize it's 20 years ago. Oh boy.
I think the biggest mistake they did with the Tau, because I know obviously the whole thing about 40k, it is the grim dark. There are no good guys, but they missed a trick. They should have just kept the Tau as a good guy. The way I used to view it,
they are kind of like a greater good. Like, what's their feel? Are they so they're kind of like what? Okay, are they more communal or more based around their whole society type thing? Are they more unified?
You work. Yeah, you work towards the ideal. They don't worship a deity or anything like that. So that makes them different from everything. Well, apart from Tyranids,
gotcha.
I suppose Necrons. They don't worship a deity, but they basically give faith into an ideal.
Okay.
So when you've got an entire species, so like the Orcs like to fight, these guys like to work for the betterment of the Empire. So the way I used to describe the Tau was basically, if you consider like Star Trek, they're like Starfleet, but without the Prime Directive.
Gotcha.
So they will go and interfere with races, but they will basically offer them a chance to join.
Yeah.
Because if they've got something that they want to make use of, they'll go, why don't you come with us? You can still do whatever you want to do, but you just work towards the greater good. And that whole thing. So that sort of appealed to me. I thought that's nice, having the option instead of, it actually echoed a lot of ways with how the Great Crusade was run, where the Imperium would turn up to a human world and go, you're part of us, you've been lost for centuries. We've come back to bring you back into the fold. Do you want to come and join us? And then I would say, yeah. Or they go, no, we're happy as we are. And at that point, that's when they get their butts kicked. But the Tau would trade. They would they would make friends, and over time they would lure you into their sort of empire. But there was never anything. You just look at it and go, well, there's nothing really bad of it. Your life expectancy would probably go up, and your living conditions would definitely improve with the use of like Tau technology, medical care.
I'm gonna have to find some sort of book or audio book or something later. I'll get one with a little bit of the Tau because I don't know anything really about them. So that is one I probably want to just because out of curiosity's sake. I'll be like, okay, what's up with this?
They from the Dawn of War game where they introduced the Tau. They done a cutscene at the end where basically if you was a Tau player and you won the campaign to take over this planet. Which is a hive world, and as you probably know, a hive world has a lot of people on it.
Yeah,
and they basically said about, okay, we've taken over the world, right? We're going to have to start instigating sort of sterilization into the water or something like that,
Yeah.
So immediately everyone goes, "Oh, the bad guys." But if you look at it from a pragmatic point of view, which they are very pragmatic. If you've got like a hive world, you're probably going to have at least 50 billion people on it. And you've got to, feed them because otherwise they're going to revolt. If they're continually breeding, that number's going to grow and grow and grow. So from a sort of, a husbandry side of things, you've got to maintain the population. So
that's
how they see it.
I liked. That was one of the things I always liked about the environment. Like, to me, it was almost to make you think in some of the stuff, because it was like, okay, well, you'd play a game and it was okay. Are they sacrificing however many thousands of psychers to the emperor? And it's like, okay, well, is it the trade-off of, well, if humanity was going to get wiped out, if you don't sacrifice the psychers, are you going to let humanity get wiped out, or are you going to sacrifice the psychers? And then, so I think the grimdark setting, and I like when they get those decent questions that'll make you think. It's like, okay, well, yeah, if they're sterilizing people, that's horrible. But then on that scale and with those circumstances and with everything, like, hey, what would that civilization do? And I think, to me, from like a storytelling perspective and stuff, I think that's where you can play a lot in that world. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stories to be told with those contrasts.
Yeah. Well, in some respects, like with the whole sort of like the sterilization of the population, that's to keep, the childbirth rate down.
Yeah.
They're not going out and exterminating people.
Mm-hmm.
They're letting them live and be productive and have a better, enhanced life of, it's a lot easier to live within a Tau society with their technology because they understand their technology. Whereas humans, we have to light a candle, make some, chants and stuff to try and get a toaster to work. So, in that respect, it's...
Well, I would have to look at them, but like even from a brief time, like if I had to live anywhere, I'd probably choose in the 40K universe. You know what I mean? We're all like,
there's a few messages we've got in here. So, good old space atheists, yes. That was one of the cool aspects of Tau. I thought that was meant to be a huge sort of melting pot of people joining up with the Tau, with the Recruit, Vespid, and like exactly, Martin. You had the Recruit from the start. Vespid came later. There was several other races mentioned, like the Nikasar, which are like floating psychic polar bears. Which I just thought, why is there not a model of this thing?
Yeah.
There was the Terrellian dog soldiers. So basically, humanoid dog warriors.
Oh, I remember wait, I think I remember those. Yeah, they were back around in the day. I think I remember seeing them in they were drawn black and white.
Yeah. So, and even bugger, there was the Space Skaven one. I can't remember the name at the moment. But the other one was the Demiurge. Now, the Demiurge, which was in not Starfleet Belts, was in Battlefleet Gothic. They actually had a ship for the Demiurge in that, and they were a race that traded with the Tau, spacefaring trading race. They lost their homeworld, and because of that, everyone associated, because they were short humans, short humanoids, and everyone said, "Oh, they're dwarves." They weren't. The Demiurge were literally like a human, like me and you.
Yeah.
But imagine like jockeys, a race of jockeys.
Yeah. On a different planet,
just on a 5 foot tall.
On a different planet, you could easily, you know what I mean, be smaller or bigger or anything like that.
And they traded with a Tau, and Tau got ion technology, and then obviously they developed it. Because I always liked the idea that the Tau were actually a response from the galaxy against chaos, because they don't have like they had the presence of like a bumblebee in the warp. That's their echo.
Yeah,
it's like a small fleck of dust, whereas humans like glow because of all the emotions, that sort of stuff. So I always thought that there'd be like an anti-chaos type race to help out, and they were not as bad as everybody else was, but
I wonder, like, wait, what did King Crimson says? I think the Big E is going to come back soon. There's that little girl the Custode sees as the Big E. Interesting. I
was the Star Child.
I think it'd be a long time before because then they have to resolve it if he comes back.
Well, again, in previous things, I always considered the Emperor to be in a situation that was God was in the film Dogma, where he's on life support, and all you got to do is unplug him, because he's a perpetual. So when a perpetual dies, they come back. So he's doing, I don't know, with the whole like heresy, what happened and all that, he's doing what he needs to make sure that humanity can still continue. So the Astronomicon had to be basically kept going, and that's what he's doing. He's sitting there acting as the Astronomicon, because that's also the book I was telling you about the other week, the Mechanicum heresy book. There's something in that which would have been a game changer. Okay. But Schism of Mars ruins everything for everyone. But yeah, the Big E coming back. Obviously, we've got Guilliman back. We need another loyalist Primarch to turn up at some point.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be telling that for the next 20 years.
The Emperor's Alanis Morissette confirmed. You heard it first. They had a trolley problem where there's no track switcher.
Yeah, is that what Martin said? Yeah, trolley problem, exactly. Like, it's not a problem because you don't have to switch it. That's how you solve the trolley problem. Everybody's on the track. You can't touch the switch. Problem solved. There. We solved the trolley problem in this chat. And there's 5 concurrent viewers. That's all we get for solving the trolley problem.
Well, obviously, they'll go out and they'll take 100 people each, and they will teach them the word.
Yeah. The word. There. This is how you solve it. Everybody on the track. And thanks for joining us. I still can't believe we got 5 viewers. I appreciate you guys stopping in. And the girls, I use it. King Crimson. Well, I thought that too, but if that was the case, Gilly would have done it.
Well, that's what I always thought about. What was at the time, there was a storyline going on where Cypher, the Dark Angel mystery man, because he's been cited for years going around with a plasma pistol, a bolt pistol, and the lion's sword on his back, which he never used. And every time he appears, an appearance occurs, it's closer to Terra. So we're always heading towards Terra. And that was a whole sort of like big sort of story going on. And then when Gulliman came back, Cypher was with them, and he went back to Terra. So I sort of half expected something to happen where he goes, "Look, this is what you got to do," boop, and Emperor, hi, I'm back again, guys. But I don't think until there is something that the Emperor can use as a substitute, because obviously the Golden Throne was made for Magnus to sit upon,
Huh.
to control the Astronomicon and to see everything and to guide
Oh
everything and
yeah,
to
that's
run.
right. That's right. Because he was all yeah. The
But
Scyther.
yeah, we all know how that turned out. Um, but yeah, it's unless someone comes along that is of significant psychic strength who could actually take over from the Emperor, I don't think he can leave unless they do something where he goes, "Oh yeah, I've got excellent Wi-Fi signal. I can be in two places at once.
I can
Um,
be.
I can be the Astronomicon there and here." But yeah, although there is actually something that I believe, again from many fluff conversations, the Blood Ravens chapter, who have a habit of stealing artifacts, and are loosely connected to the Thousand Sons, because lots of
Okay.
people think that they're actually, Thousand Son gene seed or something that
Yeah.
survived, and they made a chapter from them. But although that's not confirmed, sorry, it was just
It's
written on a
okay.
book.
It doesn't have to be totally confirmed to be said on this show. We're not.
Yeah,
People are so worried about like what's is it
but
true? Is it? There's so much lore. I had the new white dwarf sitting next to me, and I was like, so, and I bought it because part of my reason is like, oh, it catches me up on everything, right? So I subscribed. I'm like, there's a little bit of everything. I get to see models. I get to catch up on the lore, and I was reading some just on, I think it was Nagash, and it's so there's this like you read 2 pages of it and it's so dense with like everything that went on. It's like this name and all these different characters and what happened, and you read that and you realize it's only just a slice of that one character, and that character is just one small slice. It's like so vast.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. That there's so much going on within the whole, like the meta plot. There was a tweet the other day from Aaron Debsky Bowden,
Yeah.
where he was saying about, you have the meta plot and then you have all these other sort of little storylines and things that go off, which don't
Yeah.
actually have any real import within the 40k
Yeah, the
thing.
bigger picture. Yeah.
Yeah. And they say, like, because everyone's going on about, well, somebody said this in this book, somebody said that in that book, and as we all know, with Games Workshop fluff, they can change it. They
Yeah,
can
and it,
retcon
just
it
because
to
the
the heart's
character the character who said it could be wrong.
yeah. Or there was even, like, for years in the heresy, there was people going around basically going, "Oh yeah, the Ultramarines, they're so big because they got all the gene seed from the two missing
Yeah.
legions," which wasn't true, because in the book, which was the first heretic, that came from a sergeant in a word bearer sergeant in a squad, basically talking. Now, that's not a reliable witness. That's like me saying to you that
Yeah.
cold potatoes aren't hot.
Yeah.
There's some truth to that, but it doesn't mean that it's actually the truth. And what you find out in the Horus Heresy, the Forge World Horus Heresy books, where the Ultramarines come from. Here's a spot quiz. Where do they come from?
I have no idea. Wait,
Right.
and I know I've heard it or read it but that was way back in the day. So where do they come from? Wait, is
Right.
anyone?
So
Wait for the audience. They might have. They're behind
audience
us.
questions. Right. What is the realm of where the Ultramarines live?
This is going to be good because I don't know it.
I just got a message about. Yeah. Like, just reading some of the other things. There was Gilly is a master tactician. He could reason to see pulling the plug and holding the Imperium for a bit. But yeah, I was talking about Star Child. Yeah, Star Child prophecy, which again, I don't know if that, because that was mentioned and then it sort of just disappeared again. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't remember if it's come up in anything recent books, but if you know of any of the recent publications that mention the Star Child prophecy, please let me know, because I would love to actually get hold of that, because I haven't got a lot of books to read at the moment. I've read them all.
oh, did you? Okay.
Martin's saying that Cypher is on Terra and he's actually just stuck in traffic, which I can believe. And Crimson again, you got a ton of big things. Gilly comes back. Cesara Khan returns. The Yanari doing their thing. Vulcan being out there somewhere. Vulcan, I think I know where he is.
Dun, dun, dun.
But and Crimson comes in. Yes, they live in Ultramar. That is correct. Now, Ultramar is unique amongst all the regions of the Imperium because it was Guilliman's home, and Ultramar consists of 500 worlds.
Oh, really?
So if you've got 500 worlds with 500 different populaces, some of them are going to be big, some of them are going to be small, and you've got the most efficiently working organizer in the galaxy,
Yeah.
your boss.
Yeah, he'll whip that stuff into shape.
That's where they got 250,000 Space Marines before Calf. They basically recruit, and everything was efficient, and bang, 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 and they could keep up their numbers, go out, and yeah, they may not have got as many battle honors compared to like the Lunar Wolves or Space Wolves or Dark Angels or whatever, because they were always crusading, whereas they were reinforcing, rebuilding, expanding Ultramar, and basically, doing this. They were going out and doing stuff as well, obviously, but
they're
had
building an empire. They were trying to build a base kind of deal, it seems like.
And that's the thing with that organization that Gunnerman has, because in one of the siege books, because obviously at Calf, when the betrayal at Calf happened, and the word bearers with their curly moustaches attacked and basically absolutely battered the hell out of Legion. In like a couple of days, the Ultramarines had been whittled down to sort of like 70, 80,000.
Wow.
Because of the betrayal. Because, if you look at some of the artwork for like the Battle of Calf, I was speaking with the artist who actually drew some of the artwork for it.
Yeah.
And look at the pictures, because there's this whole thing. What instigated it was a ship tender called the Campanelle went full speed into like orbital platforms and parked ships and obliterated them.
Okay.
All that stuff started raining down onto the surface. So you had like huge orbital platforms, which was stocked up with munitions, armor, tanks. And if you look at the artwork of Betrayal at Calf, or like in the Fordwell books, Retribution, which I think is book 5, there's this picture. So you see some models, and they've all arranged them, took photograph and all that.
Yeah.
But in the background, in the sky, you see Baneblade tanks, super heavy tanks, falling from the sky.
Oh,
and
that's a cool detail.
They tanks, because all that stuff was coming from orbit, like, or low orbit, just like obliterating the planet's surface.
Oh yeah, that would be a rainy day of
of tanks.
It's raining tanks.
Yeah, raining tanks. But you say that the word bearers attack their they absolutely decimated the Legion, and a lot of that Legion got stuck on Calth as well because the Underground War went on for several years. So there was a huge because a ritual was performed, the Ruin Storm. It cut off warp travel, so Guilliman was able to get out with maybe about 30,000 Marines, and the rest were left on Calth to fight on. They couldn't go on the surface because it was now irradiated because the sun had been poisoned. So they're all trapped underground. But in one of the siege books, where they're sort of talking about, Horus is getting a little bit twitchy because he needs the siege to finish, so he can win, because they know that the Ultramarines are coming, and they also know that the Ultramarines Legion has been rebuilt to its former strength. So in the sort of 10, 12 years, or because obviously the war perfects everything. So from the betrayal at Calth and the subsequent Shadow Crusade by the Word Bearers and World Eaters, Guilliman, who basically eventually got them out of Ultramar, started rebuilding. And within that 10-year span, had got his Legion strength back up to what it was. Okay. So that's why Horus was really
concerned,
trying to get things done.
Yeah, that would leave a mark with it fully reloaded. I'm gonna set this on replay real quick just to do a time lapse of this, and then I am going to let the dog out, and then I will.
Wolf Lord Lewis, hello.
Hey, Wolf Lord Lewis, thanks for making it.
Yeah.
And Apothecary, I will be back in 1 minute.
Yeah, so
we'll let this play. You keep them busy. I'm going to mute the mic.
Legion strength, Wolf Lord. The Ultramarines were the biggest at 250 strong prior to Calth. The next biggest was the Word Bearers, because they'd spent 40 years building up, because obviously from the time of when their revelation that, we don't like the Emperor, we want to turn to chaos and worship them, they started building up their forces, but they were at 180,000 strong at the time of the betrayal. I believe most other legions fluctuated between 100,000 and 150,000. The Blood Angels were about 150,000 at the time of Sigma's Prime. The smallest legion wasn't actually the Thousand Sons at the time of the heresy. It was actually the Raven Guard, because they were involved in a conflict where you had the Raven Guard, Space Wolves, Lunar Wolves, and the Iron Warriors taking on a compliance, and Horus ordered the Raven Guard to do a frontal assault upon their fortifications. Now, you all know about Raven Guard aren't exactly known for their frontal assaults, because they like to sneak around and assassinate and kill and guerrilla warfare. That's their thing. And Corax was a little bit irked by that whole thing of like, why are you ordering me to do the frontal assault? And Perturabo called him a coward. So why is it always me that has to lead assaults? You lead an assault, you do the frontal assault. And Corax was gonna kick off until Russ took him to one side and basically said, look, you can't not follow orders. You have to follow orders, otherwise it's not going to end well for you. But that said, you don't have to like them. You have to do them, but you don't have to forget them or forgive them. And Corax went, okay. What helped him in his decision was the fact that a lot of the Terran Raven Guard, who had served alongside the Empress Horus and the Lunar Wolves back then, and were probably a little bit pro-Lunar Wolf and pro-Horus, and they were very vocal in the idea of we'll lead the assault, we'll want to do that, and so Corex let them, and they were all at the front of the lines that went in there, and they suffered their quite a heavy defeat. Well, they suffered heavy losses. They weren't defeated; they won, but most of the Terran and those sympathetic to Horus were actually wiped out at the Battle of Gate 4-2, which probably helped in some respects for later on at Isstvan, where you've only got sort of 80,000 legionaries at Isstvan 5 for the drop site massacre. But at least you know that they're all on your sort of side, if you know what I mean. But yeah, so legions were big, but
I caught a little bit of the end of that, so that was. I mean, I'm so like far behind on that. It's cool to like catch up, and you know a lot of stuff. You've been following. You've read quite a few of their books and everything, I assume. Then.
Oh, also a Raven Guard player for the Heresy, so, so I know that side of things. But yeah, it's I always loved the sort of the battle line out, the order of battle side of all this background, and when you see, you know, how big legions were, you know, what they specialized in, I love all that sort of stuff. Michael dropped in there. Miniature apothecary. Hello.
Hey, apothecary, thanks.
Yeah. I actually got a friend request by this strange guy on Facebook, and I thought, who the hell's that? And because I just started, I've just been invited into a group, a hobby group that's doing a Badab campaign armies, and I turned up there, and again the same guy was going, "Oh, who let this bloke in?" the sort of thing, and I had no idea who this person was, because they didn't have a picture of their beautiful face on their profile. And so I actually asked my mate, I said, "Who is this person?" He goes, "Oh, it's Miniature Apothecary." "Oh, right. Oh, no. If you see him, just fine. I'll accept the request." I had no idea who he was, because I only knew him as Mike. The only time I met him was on this broadcast, and it was Mike. But yes, hi, Mike. Sneaky Boys, or Skeeky Boys up. Yeah, talking the Ultras in the Shadow War. Yes, we were. I was going through lots of stuff, and we were on the Shadow War at that point where you joined us. Rip Istvan.
Yeah, it seems to be a pretty hardcore 40K discussion today. Are you still on lockdown over there?
I am, yes. I actually, funnily enough, I actually had my boss phone me today to say that I'm being recalled to the front lines at the end of the month. So the 29th, I'll be going back in, but we're not going to be open to the public. Yep. I'm going in because we're not officially allowed to be open until I think April the 12th.
Gotcha.
Because it's non-essential trade where I work. So going in for a couple of weeks first to basically get reacclimatized to how I work in a work environment, and basically just, you know, helping get the place ship-shape ready for when we do open. So so with the Wednesday nights, we might have to do it an hour or so later than we are now.
Oh, yeah, that does. Yeah, you got that kind of stuff going on. So whatever comes up, I'm pretty flexible. Like, you know, that whole time frame is good with me. So yeah, if you're still down, I want to have you. This is great for me.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely. Yeah, I enjoy this. This is, you know, I this is my Wednesday now, so I have this, and then I have a whole play afterwards, so it's all good. So we're just going to check up with some of the other chats we've got. So
what do you say?
Yeah, they should have sent the Space Force for the frontal assault. Yeah. Or obviously Iron Warriors.
I thought I remember reading something about why they didn't on that a long time ago.
Well, the funny thing is, like, the Space Wolves, they're very canny. Is the Space Wolves? They're very canny.
That
I
is
remember
that is
seeing.
a wolf trait too. You're not just a thing.
Yeah,
You're kind of cunning about it.
yeah. I remember seeing in one of the stories where they were basically infiltrating en masse, and these 8-9 foot tall space marines in power armor was stealthy as anything, and as they're fighting, they're basically taking the weapons off the enemies because obviously they was only carrying limited ammunition. So
Yeah,
they're
so they
running
have to keep
along,
using those
close
weapons
combat,
to
take the
fight.
weapons, and then using them on the enemy, sort of thing. But they were like, there was just super stealthy and sneaky as well. So it's not all drop pods and breaching pods and all that.
Yeah.
They can operate in the same way. What's F's in chats? Chat boys? Oh. Istvan, yeah, rip. Yeah, and miniature apothecary. Yeah, I'm no different wherever I roam.
And I think Miniature Apothecary, are you streaming or are you, I don't know if you're streaming today or are you just doing a hang and paint? He'll reply when he gets to this. I think he's got something going on today.
He's always got something on. He's a busy boy, that man.
Yeah, he does seem busy.
Yeah, all I've actually painted this week is an Ultramarine for the whole hashtag March for McCrag.
Yeah.
Which Miniature Apothecary was saying, no, it should be March on McCrag. Wanting me to do some naughty boy to go and attack the Ultramarines, which I can't do that. Ultramarines were my first sort of my love of Space Marines.
Okay, Ultramarines were your first like that? Yeah.
Yeah, it was. There was one of the small box games they brought out, which was called Ultramarine, and you had the artwork was a bunch of Space Marines surging through a breach, and they're all Mark 6 beaky armor going through this breach, and the artwork, that was it. I saw that and I thought, they be bad. I like that, and so so I associate with them. Hello, Mr. Spats.
Hey, Mr. Spats, glad you could join it.
Another one to our happy chamber. So yes, so I think I've done lots of Roman Guardy stuff there. And Wolf Lord Lewis, I've painted a single assault intercessor with Terminator Power Fist instead of a chainsword. And why not? Space Wolves, rules don't apply. That's the thing, is sometimes you just don't have the parts to create exactly what you want, so you have to improvise. The sign of a good hobbyist, it's when you put like a dreadnought power fist onto a star. That's when you're getting silly. But it's bit of a lore day. Yes. If there's any questions that people want to ask, if I can answer them, I will.
No doubt. And see, that's the other thing I was thinking. So I think one of the things we should do is like have some semi-steady, not topics, but maybe like, I think GW releases like on a Monday some stuff. Maybe we look at them and then we give our thoughts or something on that. You know what I mean? I'm like, maybe we'll get a couple, not necessarily, I guess, topics, just, hey, maybe we'll start covering this more or whatever. Who knows? So I'm open to ideas too. If you ever have any thoughts,
by the seat of our pants Wednesday, so yeah, we go for
it. Good. I dig your style. Mr. Crimson says, I actually came across some Space Wolves helping each other pour ale in a dreadnought. Yeah, I saw that same drawing, King Crimson. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, the Space Wolves have definitely evolved over the years. I think, again, going back to the heresy with Prospero Burns, which was a dual book between Dan Abnett and its sister book, which was 1,000 Suns, about the whole Prospero Battle of Prospero and what led up to it and everything. Now, originally Prospero Burns was meant to come out first, but Dan Abnett had a health issue and couldn't do that, and so they switched it around, and A Thousand Suns came out first. It didn't really make a difference overall, but because one was basically Thousand Sun orientated, one was Space Wolf orientated. But Dan Abnett has this ability to create awesomeness. So with the way the Space Wolves were created in that, or as they're known as the Valka Fenrica, is what they call themselves. They don't call themselves Space Wolves. Everyone else calls them Space Wolves. They don't. They call themselves the Rout or the Valka Fenrica. They were just given so much character and depth, and sort of took them away from the old sort of we're drunken space dudes.
It's not like drunken space Vikings or whatever.
Yeah. So there was more towards like, it did obviously still stick on with like Norse origins and stuff like that, but more true to Norse origins than Eric the Viking, basically. With his cloak invisible. But and the same with like the Thousand Suns, because we had up until those two books, we'd had Space Wolves and the Thousand Suns appeared in one book beforehand, which was Battle for the Abyss, which a lot of people don't actually like, but it's because it's basically a car chase in space. Which like we've got to capture this ship, and you've got a whole load of Marines from different legions working together to stop this. Basically, it's like sinking the Bismarck.
Yeah, I gotcha.
The Furious Abyss was a ship that was built in silence. Its class is a king ship, and it had a lot of the sort of naughty technology that shouldn't have been allowed on it. It had this huge plasma gun, cannon. Sorry, that came. They had this on the prow or the spine of the ship. There was this huge book, and the book would separate like that, and a huge plasma obliterator cannon would come out, and it would just absolutely annihilate whatever was in front of it, basically. It was a ship killing ship, even like battle barges and stuff like that. This thing ruins ships.
Yeah.
And it was heading to Ultramar. It was heading to Macragge, as it was all timed to go off at the same time as Calf and stuff like that. And there was a ship which had a load of, so like Space Wolves. There was a Thousand Suns guy on there called Imhotep, who had his own ship, the Waning Moon, which I always loved the name of the Waning Moon, and it was introduced to the their guard forces, who are the Spire Guard, which are just Prosperine Spire Guard, are just awesome. They look awesome and sound awesome, and it was basically sink the Bismarck in space. The coolest character in that was a World Eater sergeant, and I think it's called Scrag or something like that, who basically infiltrated. He became a Raven Guard for 2 weeks because he infiltrated the Furious Abyss and was going around all these tunnels and basically Anderson tubes and stuff like that, evading word bearers, and he was going around with Angron's axe, Gorechild, because for some reason this two-handed weapon had been given to the Furious Abyss to be held as a symbol of his, loyalty to Lorgar or something.
Yeah.
And this word bearer got hold of it and was going around and using it against the word bearers, which was quite funny. But yeah, it was an interesting book, but it's not considered to be one of the greatest works within the Heresy series.
Yeah.
But I'll see what's everyone's going off. Wolflord Lewis. I just like kit bashing. I've been using a lot of Wolfen bits to modify intercessors, make them a bit more wolfy, which is cool. I did the same with the Leviathan Dreadnought with my yeah, that sort of thing. I do the same thing when you get those little sprues for like Dark Angels, Space Wolves, Blood Angels, Ultramarines. It just gives you something that you can utilize in creating a more unique view and look aesthetic even to your models.
That's the other thing I think they do great because their sprues have those little bit of extras, and those little bit of extras are always like, well, if I just got that other model, I could put these on them and do some crazy conversions.
That's the thing; it just makes them more unique, and it really does add to the whole look that you're trying to achieve with your model. You know, having like a few like pelts hanging off the side of an Invicta warsuit.
Oh,
I actually really like the kit, and having those like bits hanging off the side is really characterful, and that's what you want. You know, that's all it comes down to. It's your hobby, so you do these things to make it more awesome for yourself. You know, you've got to enjoy your models more than anything, any other consideration. You know, they're your models, so if you want to do that, you do it. You know, I know like some people. I always go back to this one time I was at a gaming Wayland Games down near where I live, and they had this gaming hall. And while I was there, I was hosting like a little sort of gaming event. People from all around, from a Facebook group I was an admin on, I'd organise these little gaming meetups, and people would come down.
Yeah.
And while I was there, there was these young kids playing their 40k game on the table next to us, and for some reason, they just became attached to me and was like asking questions and sort of seeking my approval of their stuff. And they show me their models, and you look at them and you go, yeah, they're good. They weren't fantastic. Let's be honest. These kids were like 12 years old, and it was like dunking. Some of them you could see a little bit of technique, and you go, yeah, I can see where you're going with that. And you know, and you just be honest with them, not cruel honest, but just be honest with them.
Just
Say,
you gotta give them some direction, and
maybe you want to try something different.
Focus on
try
this a
this,
little
try
bit. That looks good.
Yeah, and but this one kid started telling me about this character. Now, children's imaginations are wonderful things, and he's telling me about this character he had who was going to be a chaos warlord, but he came from this planet. He came from the wrong side of town, but then he was also this, and he used to be that. And you're going, okay. Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
They're trying to jam it all in there.
Yeah, you're taking the best things. You're going like, you know, handle me, and because I'm so sort of like into the lore, and you're going, but that wouldn't work. But I don't voice it. I don't let that little voice come out and go meh and ruin his hobby. I just go, oh, I can see you're very creative with your ideas, you know, and keep it up, sort of thing. And you encourage that. And I'm always like that with any person of any age. I'll always sort of try to encourage their enthusiasm, because that would get you through the worst sort of paint blocks or writing blocks.
For sure. I agree with, like, if you can get enthused about, and that's one thing, like the only reason I can get a bunch of Paintovers done is because I love these things. Like, I love this model. So it's like, okay, man, I gotta try to like do some sort of justice to this thing. And so I'm trying to, like, you paint on them and get going, but it is some good motivation out there.
Yeah, well, that's what it was all about. I'll never be, you know, I've seen it where people, whether or not they're intending to be overly critical or something, because, you know, everyone puts a model up on picture. That takes a lot of guts to post a model onto
absolutely
a hobby group, you know. And luckily, I've been in a lot of groups where everyone sort of encourages them and gives friendly advice. But sometimes you get the people like, meh, you just go, like, cut the guy slack. You know, he's a young kid or, you know, a young woman, you know, who's trying to get into the hobby that, you know, this hobby has provided me so much sort of joy, happiness, and, you know, fun stories. You know, I enjoy it, and I want other people to experience that. So I'll always sort of back them up and support them in that respect, because, you know, I want more people to play against. You know, after a certain while, you know, after you've defeated all your enemies, you need new enemies.
After you've vanquished all your current friends, you need someone fresh in there.
Yes, exactly. But it's just one of those things where you know, say you just got to think of when you say try to get the words out. Treating people how you would like to be treated. You know, just getting that sort of mindset. You know, I can, you know, make fun of myself, but I don't consider doing that on someone, especially I don't know. You know, people
well, yeah,
that
you got to have because with your friends
yeah.
it's different because you can say stuff where they know your humor and they know whatever, and you know you're playing off each other and stuff. But yeah, with what I mean, for the most part, it's the internet, so you just get people who will say whatever. You know what I mean? People have been so kind to me that the biggest whole shocker out of all this for me was that I don't know, just like people have been so kind to me and stuff. I'm like, really? I'm like, this age and the internet has always been just like a half toxic soup environment. So I didn't even think it was possible that people would just be cool and, you know, fun to like. I mean, how many people have I had on this? And I'm not like some member of the community, you know what I mean? I just like was, you know, started posting and talking to people, and now it's like I'm having, you know, video conversations with people about the hobby. So it's just to go from, and it's all been in like 1 year, you know what I mean? I'm like, it was a year ago, and now I'm at this point where, you know, we're streaming regularly. We got people to talk to and chat, and I'm like, that's just crazy to me that the community is like that. So I'm just enjoying it, you know. Like, I'll go with this. I can have these kind of conversations with you. I get to catch up on the hobby. You can see everyone's art. You know, it's just like really fun to me.
Yeah, I've only been back on Twitter for about just over a year now.
Okay.
And with my YouTube as well, that's only been going for about a year. It was it was January last year I started that. I was on Twitter before.
I don't remember, but you got quite a few followers on Twitter. You must have you must be plugged in with the hobby or know about, you know what I mean? That's quite a few people you have.
What? I know people.
I know people. Yeah, that happens. Yeah, no, I mean that's
again, it's like I don't really. I've actually lost 2 followers over the last 24 hours, which I found quite amusing because I'm posting pictures of models.
They found out you were coming on here. And they ditched you.
It must have been that. It must. I only know that because
don't blame me. I'm losing followers on your live stream.
Somebody came up on my Twitter feed and they're saying, "Oh, I'm almost at 200 followers. Do I get any like balloons appear when I hit that?" So I thought, "Oh, I'll check if I'm already following them," and I wasn't. So I thought, "Oh, I'll follow." So it took up to 199. Sort of thing. I said, you know, I don't think you get balloons. You know, I've just hit. I'm only on 1250 sort of thing in that period. I'm only on that sort of thing. And although I did swear I heard some music going off, but I can't confirm it was anything to do with this. And I checked a couple of hours ago, and I've lost 2 followers. I'm like, what have I done? Yeah, it's crazy, but yeah, there's hobbyists out there that have, you know, tens of thousands. Like Chick Paints, I think she's on about 15,000 now or something.
Wow.
She's like the queen of edge highlighting with her Ultramarine. And you know, hobbyist girl who's just hit 10,000, I think, or 9,000, one of the two. But there's so many sort of like really great hobbyists out there, and they're putting out exceptional work. I think there's Blood Jackal. She's been putting up like loads of models recently. Been doing like Marvel characters, like fan art, stuff like that. And I only found out that she's only been in the hobby for less than a year, and I'm like, oh my god, so cool to paint him. But there are some really great, painters and hobbyists out there.
Oh yeah.
And the community is a good community. For the vast majority, is a good community to be in. Everyone's friendly. Like all the guys in the chat here, they're all part of the stream. They're all part of the team here.
For sure. I know. That's why I'm like, I can't. That's why you get the questions from there and everything. And to me, I didn't know. I never did anything like that where like, just to see people you're chatting to while I'm doing the artwork. So that would just that alone, I think it was like Wolf Lord Lewis was like the first one to show up. And I was just drawing, and then he would say something, and I would kind of read it, and I'd chat, and I was like, oh, wow, this is kind of cool. It would just be like reading the little chat, like, okay, I can talk while this is going on. And so it kind of like opened up my eyes to what, it could be. I'm like, okay, that would be cool. And if you don't know how people, I don't know who would like watching this type of thing. So the more you have it going and the more people, it just, keeps growing little by little. And it's been a good time. I got to read some of these.
Yeah.
A few.
I was just looking at the chat because
that's
Sprue Necrons, nothing like Necron Tomb Spruder. I've still got Necron to do. Crimson with I got Indominus Intercessors left unbuilt and a Salamander upgrade sprue on the way. They will look great. Yes, Salamanders is just an awesome chapter all round, really.
That's another one I don't know much about. I'll have to get a little caught up on some Salamander action.
Yeah, they're scary to look at. They're it was really weird that like they're the most fearsome looking of the Astartes, like visually. If you saw one with his helmet off, the sort of the ebon black skin, like jet black,
the real
and red eyes, that doesn't necessarily look normal, but they are amongst the Astartes one of the nicest ones to be around. Because there was a description I heard years ago comparing it was the Iron Hands and the Salamanders, and basically it was that if a Salamander Marine was chasing down a heretic and it ran through a crowd sort of thing, and the Marine's got his bolter out, he will basically go call out, get out of the way, or sort of like wait until he's got a clear shot. Iron Hands won't. It's your fault you're in the way.
Don't be in the way.
Yeah, don't be in the way of my bolt rounds as they go rocketing past and exploding heretics. But it's like that. Say, I think Space Wolves also have I was always led to believe they had a good relationship with mortals. So and then I read Crossbow Burns, which the start of that, I thought they were going to be nice with their mortals on Fenris. But yeah, that was a whole different story. What else have we got? But yeah, no. With Salamanders, they look mean, but they do have a heart.
They have they have a little twinge of humanity in there.
Yeah, basically, they don't look it, but they are the most human, in compassion sort of sense, and they like fiery weapons like flamers and melters.
And something to be said for that.
They love a bit of bling, those salamanders. Oh, yeah, they have spinning wheels on their bolters and everything, spinning trims. What's it got there? The wolves who wander is the Valka Fenrica translated to. Pretty much, yeah. But they are based on like Danes and Norse going out on going Viking, because that wasn't a person. Viking is basically to go out and maraud. So it's like, if you go, I'm going out, sort of thing. They're going Viking.
It's like being called a marauder.
Yeah, but it's I'm trying to think. Yeah, so like with Valka Fenrica, the whole sort of, I said, reinvention that Dan Abnett done in Prospero Burns really got them a lot of fans, and even converted a few that didn't like them, because they were made to look so different to your sort of what you would think they were.
Yeah.
And how you've been led
that
to
mentioned before. I will have to. I might have to check out that book, because I heard someone kind of say the same thing you just said. That it kind of, whatever, I don't know, like subverted their expectations or whatever a little bit.
Well, yeah, same with White Scars. White Scars have always been a little bit like, oh, it's White Scars. They like bikes. They wear white.
Yeah.
Got scars at the name. That's the only cool thing about them. But when you read like Chris Wright's heresy books of White Scars, oh my god, you're everything that you think is thrown out the window.
Yeah.
And next minute you're sitting there wishing that you could make a Scars army.
I know.
They are just awesome. They really, yeah, they're based on Mongols, space Mongols, but they've got this outlook, their whole culture that he puts into Brotherhood of the Storm, Scars, Path of Heaven, and obviously now in the Siege books as well, you're seeing the Scars doing what Scars do. So much more to them, and their whole. And once you've got hold of that, you look at them in an absolute different light. Same as you did with Space Wolves, and even Ultramarines, because normally most people hate Ultramarines because they're the poster boys of GW. Yeah. But Heresy Ultramarines were absolutely badass. You know, yes, you know, it's old Roberte Guilliman, and his lot. But man, they're absolutely mental. They're not mad. They are really efficient killing machines. Yeah. And their characters are really, you know, again, the writing in the whole Heresy series has been second to none, because you can tell it's a good book if it actually affects you in your whole perception of something. And yeah, the Ultras come off really, really well in the Heresy.
I'm reading a couple things.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It was Crimson saying about the Salamanders are the closest thing to true heroes the Space Marines have. They are. They are a really. I don't think you say they're the only true heroes, because the amount of actual heroes for Space Marines out there are second. You know, there are so many of them. Yeah. You know, you could aim off like loads, like from the Heresy, you can reel off loads of them. One hero I'm particularly close to is Octavian Brucius. This is right. This is one of my little things. There was an anthology book called Mark of Calth that was written by several authors, and one particular story called Calth That Was features Octavian Bruschius, captain of the 24th Company Ultramarine, who was based on CV 427 Praxor. after the betrayal, which was like a subterranean cave complex where refugees were coming in and all that. I'm Octavian Bruschius. I got to name a character
Really?
in the book, because basically I'm friends with several authors,
That's
and
awesome.
when I
How
heard that
fun.
Graham was writing one, I just said, "Can I have a character in your book, please?" And he said, "I'll think about it." And then he
How
emailed
fun.
me,
That's cool.
okay, what's the name? And I said, well, Octavian Bruschius, which was my Death Watch roleplay Ultramarine character. So I said, I'll
By
see
the
what I
way,
can do.
if you are watching and you like this, please, please, please hit that like button. That helps me with all the algorithm stuff. I went, so they boosted me 2 days, one time at 9:30 at night and one time at 10:30, and it gets me to about like 400 or 500 views on my shorts. They only do it to my shorts because I don't have any, like, I need like some 5 to 10 minute content, and then they didn't do it the night before yesterday, and I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, wait, I've been doing the same thing. They probably just take a day off and try different things. And then last night I noticed they boosted one. So I've been trying to like figure out what they're, I have to still have to do more keywords and all that good stuff, you know what I mean, to help them out. So I've been, trying to put the cards at the end and all that kind of thing. So I'm trying to, just get better at my YouTube game.
Get your YouTube game on point.
Yeah. That is my game right now. It's pretty much YouTube and Artist Empire.
Well, that's the thing. It is a gradual process, and you say you just keep on putting these out because everybody loves seeing these.
Thank you.
When you see them come up on Twitter, look what I've done. You go, Jesus Christ, that's badass. As you say, you do create something unique and different, which is, it is
I appreciate that.
a niche within the hobby sort of thing, and I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
everybody is happy to get something of theirs done this way. I'm still really chuffed. I've actually now got what you did for me with my my warlord is actually my phone screensaver.
That's one thing I get a big kick out of is I will be on Twitter and I'll notice quite a few people will use some of the artwork I did with their stuff and their like Twitter handles and stuff. And I'm like, all right, that's kind of cool. I'm like, I like that. It's just this, that people like to see these, the same environment. I mean, come on, this model is amazing. Like as soon as I saw, I'm like, okay. And there's a couple, like I always end up seeing these and I see more and more. And I got quite a few commissions coming in and like I've been better about, and I still got a long way to go, but communicating some of the stuff just as far as what makes a good paint over, you know what I mean? So, and I'm working on a nice kind of laid out thing so people can read it like before they commission me, and it's a little more clear with a good process of what helps make it. And I've been working with a few people and photographing the model and cool angles, and it's fun to kind of evolve. It's almost like a studio type environment for me where you have other artists who are around you and you just feed off that creativity. So that's been one of the really big things for me with this is that it's good to be around for me, and get all that from different people.
Oh, exactly. We all sort of take inspiration from other people, and it only helps our own skill sets, our own sort of ideals and ideas, and it makes our hobby, our art, all the better. As I say, having I've watched a couple of the other sort of people that you've had on and all that. It's always fun to sort of watch them and hear their opinions and what they've got to say on how they do their hobby and their sort of stories as well. It's always good. And it's nice to have something like this where all the guys can sort of come in, hang out, ask questions, have a chat, and listen to me prattle.
Which I approve of. And I didn't see, that's what I didn't know either. It's and because it had been so long since I'd been into it, there's like this whole backlog of people that, they're living their lives and doing these things and making their own stories and have their own experiences. And then, I get to talk to some of them on here, and it was kind of like, oh wow, they did this, and just all these little weird, quirky like relationships or how it relates to something. Even we talked like about some TV shows, and so it was just I made a tweet about the Dreamcast the other day, and I was surprised how many people, like, obviously it was a big, but that really respected that system when it came out and everything. I was like, oh yeah, the Dreamcast. It's like all these people now in the world all have Twitter and stuff and you just connect. Because like when Dreamcast come out, it's not like you'd be tweeting about it,
Well, no, as I say, it's sharing all that information and knowledge that we all have. I'll just call Crimson in here saying like, I mean, Lee, we could totally catch Artist Empire up on the lore over a few hours and a couple of drinks. We can make it a podcast. That's what it is. It's meeting up with friends. It's like after a gaming event or something. You always go to the, in Warhammer world, we'd always go into pub, chill out, chat about our games, have our little story tells with what's happened to us, how those dice betrayed us horribly, and then just talking about stuff. I've learned so much stuff from those little conversations with friends at gaming events and stuff like that. It really is what makes the hobby the hobby. Not just the painting and collecting. It's all the stories, the lore, hearing stuff like, hearing like your friends talk about books they've read.
I just saw Arch Adept came in and he said, checking in on my lunch break. I worked at Toys R Us when the Dreamcast was launched. People were so excited. That's funny. At Toys R Us at that time. Yeah, that was a probably good days for Toys R Us back then.
I actually got refused entry to a Toys R Us.
You ruffian! What were you doing that you got refused entry to a Toys R Us?
I was like every like weekend or holiday season. My mum had like a little caravan, as we call them over here, a little like mobile home at this place in Essex, because I lived in London at the time. And me and this guy I made friends with, Fraser, decided that we'd get on a bus and travel to the nearest big town, which was called Basildon. And they had a Toys R Us there. And we've gone walking into Toys R Us, and security guard has come over and said, sorry, can't allow you in. You're not old enough.
Oh.
It's a toy shop with kids. We would buy toys.
You're not old enough for that.
Yeah, but obviously I can sympathise with him, because he's probably thinking, oh, there's a couple of tearaways coming in who want to steal stuff and all that. But we generally just travelled, like 5 miles on a bus to get there to buy some toys. We weren't allowed into the toy shop. Just to see, there was a few things that was in the post that caught my eye. Where Martin was saying about how he loved White Scar's 30k novels, because yes, they're awesome. I don't think there's a bad White Scars novel at all. He also goes on about in the Heresy with the Ultramarines, they have this thing called the practical and the theoretical. So whenever you're having like dealing with a situation, you'd have a theoretical, so your thought on how to deal with it, and then you implement the practical, and that was made a big thing in the sort of early Ultramarine Heresy sort of arcs.
That makes sense.
There was also the thing that another little thing, because they for a while they did make a point of, because all the Primarchs take after a aspect of the Emperor. So organization goes to Guilliman, or statesmanship Guilliman. Stealth goes to Corax. I don't know, but each Primarch has one. Actually, sorry, with Corax it was his intelligence, because Corax is a smart bugger. But each Primarch has one aspect of the Emperor, and with the Ultramarines, obviously they made a thing about each of the legions had a certain thing about them that they had which was unique that made them them. With the Ultramarines was because of their gene seed being so pure or whatever,
Yeah.
their organs were very efficient and everything like that. They had a much better survivability from critical injuries than other
Oh, I didn't know
Marines.
that.
So,
Interesting.
and they could heal faster. So they can get back into action. So yeah, they can take an arse whipping. But they came out with this phrase is basically, if you're going to fight an Ultramarine, make sure you kill them, because if you don't, you're dead. So like that, you don't kill him, he's coming back and he's going to have you. But it's all these little bits and pieces you pick up throughout the lore, which, as I said many times, that's what makes the whole thing so good. Those little moments, those little stories, those little sort of like Legion history and stuff that comes out.
And my favorite too is when you're playing a game and you kind of make your own because it made the, you know what I mean, the battle or whatever. That's probably my favorite part. When I used to play, it was like, oh, I used to always remember like I had a Space Wolves Blood Claw that just did their crew wiped out because they had, at the time I was pretty sure it was jump packs, and I had jump packs on them, and they took out a bunch of rhinos with guard in them and killed. They literally took out like 2 or 3 vehicles, and if I remember correctly, there was one left with the power fist, and he was still taking out a vehicle solo because he never broke. So I was like running up to stuff.
Yeah, I played in a 2-player game once where I was using my Raptors Space Marines, and my mate was using his own homebrew Imperial Guard regiment, the Masalai Rangers, and we were doing this like 2,000 points per person, so it was a 4,000 point game, and we was up against 2 players who had Eldar or Eldari as they know, and one of the players brought his son who had about 500 points of Tau. Because it was me, they focused upon me and absolutely smacked the hell out of me. They just, shot the crap out of me, literally. And all I had at the end was 1 scout. And like that, he basically he just ran away. We obviously given a good account of ourselves, but I had never lost so many models in a game.
Yeah.
To leave me 2,000 points, 1 scout, but that scout made his way and took an objective, and that helped win the game.
Yeah, you got it. That's exactly the kind of moments that you take with you for a long time just from that, especially if some crazy rolls are involved or stuff like that. Adam says this paint subject is super fun. What a cool model. The Paintover is going great. Thank you. You know what? I want to show this in case someone hasn't seen it. Give me 1 second. I am pulling up the Twitter, and I want to show a couple other views of this in case you haven't seen it, because it's well worth checking out. Give me 1 second. Here. I should be. And see, this is where I'm bad, because I have all these kind of things like this that I can use to make it sound like we're more popular. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Hang on. I'm trying to find. Okay, where's the tweet?
That's the.
Almost. Okay, here it is. So I'm going to switch screens.
As Wolflord Lewis was saying about the crowd story between the Salamanders and the Iron Hands, that if it was the Space Wolves involved, they would just use an axe, throw it through them and get them anyway.
This is the back view of that. Let me do this real quick. There. This is the back view. I can't zoom in. This is just on my computer. I got to use, but you can see the psyker in the back of this getting drained, and his like mouth and eyes are glowing. And the cables from this angle look so cool. Slow Painter last night asked me if I wanted another shot of this, and I was almost going to take a view halfway between this shot and the first shot. So it would be like a little more of an angle, so it would be on some depth. And I was like, I don't know. And I was like, I know I could get one with the first one, but I was thinking of that angle because this guy in the back it's so creepy. They just walk the Psyker in. It's
Is
like
that
this
holding his
portable
head?
Psyker milking tank.
My brain.
Yeah. There it is from the other view. The exhaust ports and I don't even know how he started. Like, it's got to be some terrain, I assume, that started this thing.
Well, there's several bits and pieces that I recognise from there, like the thruster port bits and
Yeah.
on the top sensor bits there, and
I love how he did the windows.
There were a couple of kits they brought out a couple of years ago, which was like objective bits, and there was a few bits in there that you could make, like a grounded escape pod, or there was sort of a comms array thing, and there was one which was like a glass tube, and loads of people were using it to stick a Magos in it because in like Titans, as Titan Princeps get older and older, obviously they probably get damaged during battle and stuff like that. They can get interred inside of like an amniotic tank, and they're basically like plugged directly into the Titan, which allows them to actually operate slightly faster. So they lose their ability to walk around and stuff, and they're just a floaty dude or dudette in a tank of suspension fluid. But it does give them a slight advantage in reaction time and stuff. But then they're stuck, that happens occasionally. Normally, if you're not for the smaller Titans because it's too big to fit in there, but for like a Warlord, I think it's the smallest I've seen an amniotic tank in there. Definitely an Imperator, because in the story Hell's Reach, which Richard Bolan, who basically is a computer artist who actually animated the audiobook over several episodes, about I think it was 13, 14 episodes. We've spoken about it before, and you see the evolution in his artwork. But if you're going to spend any time on YouTube not working and you want to relax with a good story, search for Hell's Reach with Richard Bolan, because
good to know.
It is such a good story, and his animation in it really brings it more to life.
Yeah.
Especially when the Titans are involved. Oh my god. Seeing an Imperator Titan walking.
Yeah.
You see pictures of them. You never see one walk, and you do now. Let's see what people are saying. Adam, the paint subject was super fun and a cool model. The Paintover is going great. Thank you, Adam. Thank you on your behalf.
I know, I appreciate that.
Wolflord Lewis, I raise ye Bjorn the Fell-Handed, grumpiest old man in the Imperium.
Yeah, he's probably my favorite. He's probably my favorite named character, because when they first started doing the Space Wolf stuff and finally coming out with them, those were kind of my real first loves. Like, I liked the Marines before Space Wolves were out, but once the Space Wolves started to become kind of known, I got more and more into them. They were my first real army.
Well, Bjorn was in the Heresy, so he's. When I was saying about Prospero Burns and how I was sort of my illusion of what I thought, how friendly they were with their inhabitants.
Yeah.
That involves Bjorn. But there was a story called Emperor's Gift, which is set in the 40k era, and Bjorn's in that because he's in a dreadnought. He's dreadnought. But the scene he is in is worth the admission for the book alone. because he's just awesome. You know, he just comes out not giving a flying rat's ass about who's in front of him, and just, you know, Bjorn being Bjorn, basically.
Yeah.
And when you're talking to somebody who, yeah, he's a dreadnought, so you've got that bit of intimidation. But when you know who Bjorn the Fell-Handed is, and you know that he is walked alongside the Emperor,
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
but that, and you're looking at someone who's like 10,000 years old, and he
Yeah.
walked at the side of the Emperor, and you know, you're talking to a living person that was there with this God Emperor, you know, and you can't not.
That is pretty crazy in the story sense, you know.
Yeah, well, he makes a couple of inquisitors very, very, you know, insecure. You just see Dreadnought walking out of this like lift, you know, doom, doom, and they're looking at it, and it's like, oh crap, that's beyond the Fell-Handed. And one of them, who's one Inquisitor Jarlsdottir, who is by a Fenrisian by birth,
Okay.
you know, meeting a living icon of the Spaceballs from her homeworld, and she just like falls to her knees and just like is crying tears of joy, like, you're real, you're
Yeah,
real.
that's pretty crazy.
And he goes, of course I'm real.
Yeah.
Kim Crimson, I love the interactions of Daddy and the boys. I think the ride back to Terra are some of the great insights to some of the Primarch's minds. Yeah, because it's weird because the Emperor doesn't consider them to be his sons, but then he does, but then he doesn't. There's and when he says hero, I mean traditional sense, saving a week, slaying the dragon sort of thing. Bjorn definitely gets grumpy badass with a heart of gold award. Yes, he is that. Arch Adept is very Adeptus Mechanicus model. Yep, big, loud, and entirely function over form. Yep. Apparently, we need the anime wow sound effect.
Yeah, see, so that's one thing I can do is you can import sound effects. I was like, oh, I gotta get some, but then I'm like, wait a second, I gotta make sure I don't get some sound effect that triggers the YouTube whatever, you know what I mean? I'd have some sound effect and then they'll be like, you're getting banned. You'd use a clip from some, short 2-second laugh track, and they're like, nope. And my computer froze, so it like locked up chat, so I can't see chat. I don't know what's going on with my PC right now.
I'll still go through it. Don't worry.
All right, good. I'm gonna reset my. I'm here. I'm just my extra PC is doing something.
Yeah, Martin needs some paracetamol apparently, which Wolflord hasn't got any. Sorry about that. Turning a warlord into a dreadnought. Good plan. That's one of the things, because in conversations I've had with other hobbyists, where they're saying about, we want to put Space Marine as the princeps of a Titan.
Okay.
And you go, well, why? What makes a Space Marine a better Titan princeps than an enhanced human who's been genetically bred for that purpose? You know, it doesn't make a warlord any stronger.
Yeah,
doesn't make it any faster.
No physical strength is gonna do it.
No, it's the mental acuity is one thing.
Yeah.
Titan princeps and like Knight Scions, they are like a genetic line. You know, not everyone can be a Titan princeps or a Knight Scion. So you've got genetically enhanced superhuman badasses, aka Astartes, Space Marines.
Yeah.
You've got people that have been bred for thousands of years, because Titans have existed longer than Space Marines.
Yeah. Yeah.
and knights have have been around for longer than Titans. So Mars has had the technology for making them work. So having a space marine as a Titan princeps or a knight princeps has no effect whatsoever over it. So there's no point in doing it, you know. A space marine and a dreadnought's one thing. You know, he extends his life and makes him do stuff.
Yeah, you're still
But as I said, I've had like several friends in the past that have brought that sort of conversation up, and you just go, well, it's not going to change anything. You know, it's just you're taking up more space. You know, having a space marine.
We bred these to make them smaller so they fit good. Don't know that.
Yeah, these ones are square. Plug in. But yeah, it's always one of the things that's puzzled me. It's like, you know, you've got Titans. Why would you want to put space? How is it going to make it any better? It won't. You know, you're not going to get something better because, yeah, they're superhuman, but they're designed to be running around punching the crap out of something. You know, a Titan princess.
We handle the big questions on this show.
Exactly. You know, if we don't address it, who will?
We solved the trolley problem and figured out why you don't have a space marine as
Yeah, so especially when knights first came out, everyone, I want to do this as a Ultramarine knight or an Iron Hands knight, and you're going, but they don't have knights. But you know, you can have like in the whole form of heraldry and knightliness and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know, I've got it with one of my House Tyrannus knights.
See, I love that. If I do it knight or whatever, it's going to have so many banners and stuff on them.
Yeah, exactly. And he's actually got because again from Hell's Reach, there's a fighter squadron on Armageddon that has the Black Templars symbol. It was, and that particular squadron had shown such heroism in a previous war against orcs, like the first war against Gascal Fracker, and they excelled. That the Black Templars that honor them said, "You can wear our symbol on your squadron."
Oh wow, that's crazy.
That is like, you know, a real big thing. You can wear
that's huge. Yeah.
And so this squadron had the Black Templars cross on their fighters of their squadron. No other squadron, just them, because they'd kicked ass and you know, with devout and loyal and tenacious in battle.
That's a cool little like side story honor of the world.
Exactly, you know, and you can have that on your knights. Like as I said, one of my knights from Tyrannus has a Black Templars symbol on it, where it is fought alongside the Black Templars and has, you know, they've stood back and gone, wow,
performed.
He likes to kill things. You know, we respect that. You know, you've done something really cool there. You really mowed down those greenskins and you saved a puppy in the process. We honor you with our symbol, sort of thing. And that for a knight is a big thing, you know, because that's, you know,
absolutely,
you know, honoring a warrior sort of thing. So just painting up a knight in Space Marine colors, that's, you know, it's not really. And knights are their own thing. Titan Legions are their own thing. And let's just leave it at that, I say. Arch Adept was going about the great scene from the Admech books where a Titan pilot in the cocoon has been tainted by chaos and starts stomping around inside the hold of a ship firing his guns. If it's the thing I'm thinking that you're thinking of, it was in the Mars, the Forge of Mars trilogy. Woohoo! Nothing. Sorry, he renamed it to Forges of Mars, but there was a Forge of Mars one, and then he changed it.
Interesting.
But there was a it was a Warlord Titan for the Legio Astorum, the Morning Stars, and they were on an Arc Mechanicus. Now, an Arc Mechanicus is a mobile Forge World of sorts. It's a huge, huge spaceship full of Mechanicus goodies dating back from the dark age of technology. You can fit strike cruisers into it, stuff like that. And they have like a fully adaptable war games area that's like a couple of miles long, square, and they can build up battlegrounds. And they're training. And during training, the princeps of the Warlord Titan were doing their thing, blah, ha, 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 stomp, and all that sort of stuff. But the war spirit of the Titan was suffering from PTSD because in a previous battle, it had been basically overrun by Tyranids, and it was having flashbacks during war games. And the war spirit was basically imagining all these like gaunts and stuff crawling all over its body.
Yeah.
And it freaked out and fired its plasma weapon inside of a spaceship.
Oh, that's wild.
Which isn't good.
Oh, that'll do some damage.
And it did. it tore through because there's no armor inside.
No, that's going to go, yeah.
And it killed thousands because the shot was fairly, a Warlord Sun Fury Plasma Annihilator is a devastating weapon, and it just went whoop, and just ate its way. The plasma just ate its way through the internals of the ship, killing thousands of menials and humans, serfs and servitors, because of what the spirit of the warlord freaked out and had a PTSD moment.
That's like a cool little sub story right there.
And that's another great book series as well.
And it makes so much good sense because you're already you're the spirit in there, and then you get PTSD, and that's just a great little, gives the world so much depth.
The Martin with the Hell's Reach, the Hell's Reach. Yeah, sorry about Hell's Reach there. But yeah, I'm sure that is basically where the princeps loses control to the spirit of the actual Titan.
My laptop decided it needs a Windows update, so it's working on updates right now during the show. So that's perfect. Good timing. I did end up ordering an iMac Mini, so I was gonna get one of those because I'm like, okay, I got the phone and the tablet, and they share files so nice, and I was like, that Mac Mini is like, for a computer, it's relatively cheap, and I watched a bunch. I'm like, okay, if I can share the files between all three, and I don't need it for too much, so I'm like, I can use that machine for what I need it for. So I was like, all right, I'll get an upgrade for that and hopefully fit it into my workflow good. I'm like, all right, because the only reason I justified it is I was like, I'm like, it will speed some things up, because now I'm bouncing things back and forth and getting them ready for print and all that. And when I have to transfer it to my PC and all that, it starts, you take 20 minutes, but you start doing it like every day. That's a lot of time, So I'm like, okay, I got to start, really being conscious of the, like, certain things are just chewing up time. So I'll try to, get them down and stuff.
There's Wolf Lord. Hell's Reach is the one where Grimaldus brings a princeps back from the brink of death by shouting at it, telling her, she's got to honor her oath that she made to him, because she got herself into a bit of trouble there. And yes, walked, ran, pissed, and killed by the Emperor's side is a direct quote from Bjorn in response to "You're real." Knights were made to colonize worlds, correct? Yes, they were sent out during the golden, because knights have been around since 15K. That's when they first turned up
Oh, I didn't
And
know that. That's when the knights first started coming out.
House Tyrannus was like one of the first knight houses, and they basically started shipping knights out to with colonization fleets. And then obviously when Old Knight came about, they the knights that were sent out, they had the throne Mechanicus, which they sat in, but it was also had part of it which instilled within the pilot a
Okay.
sense of chivalry, honor, and everything that a knight would be.
Okay.
And so obviously they went off, settled planets, set up home there. Old Night happens, Empire collapses, left on their own, and they survived or they died, basically. So there was
Okay.
hundreds of night houses out there on different worlds,
Oh,
in
that's
various.
cool.
So when they were found again, a lot of the time, most of them would just come straight over because they recognised through their sort of training and everything of who they were and everything. Especially when they say, "Look, we've got knights too."
Yeah, look, we're like you.
Yeah. In lore outside of Deathwatch, is there any mixed chapters of Space Marines? Generally, no, unless they're operating under Inquisition remit, where again, if they bring several squads from various chapters to work with them, that's the only sort of time you get the Death Watch is unique in that side of things. The only other time you had mixed units were during the Heresy with the Shattered Legions, where Marines, like especially like the survivors from Mistafan on the Sicilium, which was basically Iron Hands, Raven Guard, and Salamander. So it was Sicilium. I have trouble saying that name.
I have trouble saying every word, so you're like half a genius with pronunciation to me. So like the this one, no worries.
Yeah, the Sicilium has loads of
not,
Iron Warriors on it. Iron Hands, sorry,
not yesterday, but the other day I had Hadriatus. I still can't. I was practicing. I was taking the dog for a walk this morning. I was like, is it Hadriatus? Adriatus? So I was literally walking the dog, practicing the name.
Well, it always helps to practice. Wolf Lord, when the sign of that knight died, does it keep the honor? You could argue that yes, it does. If the knight itself survives, then it's the thing that's been recognised as the what caused the damage. If it's a personal honor, that would be something different, I would imagine. If it was like given to the scion themselves, it would be on his personal heraldry, and maybe not the knight. So there is that. Either really, because with knights they do get passed down through generations. Because obviously.
Oh, see, and at least I'll probably end up buying some knight this year just because I like the model. So at least I got you, the person to talk to, so I know I'll pick your brain a little bit on some knight details before I go and purchase one.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm Mr. Knight and Mr. Titan, me. Wolf Lord, yes, the Art Mechanicus, I believe, is bigger than the Gloriana because it is literally a flying factory. Whereas the Gloriana is obviously it's not even the biggest ship that the Imperium has. It's the biggest ship that they gave all the Primarchs. They all had Gloriana class battleships as their sort of fleet flagships, sort of thing. And then they did with them what they wanted. But there are bigger ships because there was I think the Mars class battleship, which was like a Mechanicum battleship, was slightly bigger, possibly. And then you have the legendary Apocalypse class vessels. Also, the Emperor's. The Emperor had 3 ships overall, and they were quite big. And then you got the Phalanx. So the Phalanx is basically tiny Death Star. The Arch Mechanicus is massive, and it. So if you haven't read the Forges of Mars trilogy, it really does give you a real nice look into the Mechanicus of the 40k era.
Okay, so then that's the one for Mechanicus I really got to give a read. Do you know if they have an audiobook of that by chance?
Possibly. The other one I've told you about, which was Mechanicum, which is the heresy one, that is definitely on audiobook because I've listened to that myself.
So I'll give those. I want to do some more Mechanicus listening stuff because I've been digging them. So that's going to be.
Yeah, I would definitely go with Mechanicum because it's a sort of a one-off book as such. There is actually a small follow-up. There was 2. One that was not directly connected to Mechanicum, but it is set after the events of Mechanicum, which is Cybernetica, which is a short story, it's a novella. There was a really, really good short story. Bugger! I can see the artwork of the bloody paper. I can't remember what the name of it. Which details about the loyalists. It's a short story about the loyalists, which follows on from Cybernetica.
Wait, I'm going to pause. You're here. I'm going to be gone for like 2 minutes. Be right back. Blackstone fortresses, which nobody knows what they come from. They were just there. I think it was built for the Eldari initially, or something during the War in Heaven, and they survived when the first war against Necrons. And a Titan with AI corrupted by chaos. I remember there was one story where a Titan was corrupted by chaos. It was in a hangar somewhere, and Nurgle was taking root. Like all the corrupt tech priests were like basically feeding it Nurgle goo, and eventually the Titan gave up and turned. But they can, because there was other ones where I'm sure there was some Titans that were being corrupted and they were purified and brought back to the Imperium. So just a good steam clean. Some sacred unguents around the place. What else was there? Titans. It was the Banelord Titans, the corrupted ones that appear in the Laurel of Defiance. And that shows you just how different a corrupted Titan is to the Titans you know and love. Because they're nothing like them. They are completely different on such many levels. The laptop is still working on updates, and I'm like, I'm done with this one. I'm like, I just looked. I'm like, it was been 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Where does the time go? That's what I want to know. As Warflord was asking a question about the Psychic Titan, it wasn't right. The Titan that you're talking about, which was in 1,000 Suns, was a Warlord Titan of, again, the Legio Astorum that was mortally damaged during a battle that they walked alongside the 1,000 Suns. And the 1,000 Suns basically said, we want to honor it because it's dead, we want to honor it and place it at one of our temples in tribute to its bravery. And the storeroom said, yeah, sure, you do it. Yeah, okay. And so it stood outside one of the temples of one of the, I think it's the Pironi, or am I thinking beer? But Pavoni, sorry. And during the Battle of Prospero, it wasn't a psychic titan. It was basically controlled by the Thousand Sons to actually go around and reanimate it. So somebody or a cabal of sorcerers was controlling the titan to go around and beat up Space Wolves, because the Space Wolves were kicking ass at the time. But the whole thing about Prospero, as Alan Bly was describing, was like from when it was so intense, the emotions, all the psychic powers going off, the counter psychic stuff going off, it actually almost shook the planet apart and weakened the veil between reality and the warp. And it completely went, the planet was completely smegged because of the titanic psychic overpressure that was going off. And then you add Magnus and the Wolf King as they kick off. The only other Titan that has psychic or psyker about it is the Psi Titans that the Ordo Sinister have, and there's only, I believe, 25 Warlord class Psi Titans, and they were given to the Emperor because the Emperor said, "Those Titans there, I want 25 of them for my own nefarious means," and he basically upgraded them and gave them the psychic veins and the Tenebrae obliterator or whatever, the psychic cannon it wields, and then also installed little handy psychopods, because the whole Titan is powered by psychers that they plug in to it, and then they have a blank pilot in it. So you've got a null. So if you don't know what a null is, it's an anti-psyker. He has no psychic presence at all, and he makes psychers physically ill by his presence, and that's it. It's not doing anything. He just him. He just is the antithesis to psychers, and he's in command of a Warlord Titan, and he's got all these psychers that are plugged in to the Titan, and so they can actually utilize sort of psychic powers to power the Titan in battle. So it fuels his weapon, which can bypass shields, hit where you want, and annihilate stuff. But then they can also, in game terms anyway, move and shoot, and then move again and shoot. They can heal themselves, and they can do like psychic attacks as well. And plus, if they're within a certain distance of the enemy, they have negative modifiers to their command checks because there's a Psi Titan standing in front of them. They cost a lot of points in game, but if you play one, they can be ridiculously awesome. And it's almost 50% the points worth more than just the normal Warlord's about 500 odd points. Psi Titan's about 750 with its stuff. And if you play it right, it can absolutely devastate your enemy if you're unfortunate enough to be on the other side.
Well, I think we will call it a podcast or a YouTube or whatever we're doing, live stream, a show, whatever.
Yeah.
That'll give you, it's got to be getting, what time is it by you?
Well, it's almost 8:30, so it's almost time for roleplay for me.
Oh, so you're going right from this into roleplay? Oh my gosh, I can
go
a little earlier to give you a break.
No, it's all right, because I'll sit there. I'll lubricate my mouth a bit, and then let the other
Yeah, no
guys
doubt. We've
hurry
been
me to the battle.
talking. So thanks everyone for joining. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't subscribed yet. And we're going to be doing this kind of regularly on Wednesdays. We might shift an hour or so or miss a day here and there, but as long as Lee's into it, I'm into it. This is like my getting my PhD in games. I'm like at Games Workshop. I'm not 101 because I have some experience, so I'm at like I don't know what the next level is. So whatever, I figure I'll continue my education. And
That's what I was saying. It's having the guys here as well that asking questions, bringing up
no,
stuff, and
that makes it actually feel like a show. So that was cool. I like especially you know a lot of this stuff, so it's good to hear and it's questions I wouldn't think to ask. So we're going to continue this and if you I don't know, if you have any like questions for us for next week, put some questions in the YouTube comments. Ask any questions in the YouTube comments and then maybe we'll try to like get some answers for you next week or something. Anything you want to say, Lee?
turned up. I was just going to say with a couple of things like Wolf Lord Lewis Jurgen from Cypress Kane. Yes, he's brilliant. He's one of the best characters or side characters out in any books. So that's something else that you can look up later on. Jurgen he's the man who can get things done without saying much. But no, yeah. So having everyone here joining us is always fun. Like Crimson,
Yeah, Crimson Martin, thank you guys. Wolf Lord Lewis.
Adept and everyone. Leaky Cheese, Mr. Spats, thank you very much.
Yeah, Mr. Spats, I have to get him. I'm going to do a live stream paint over of one of his minis sometime. So that's probably coming up here next week. I was telling people, I'm like, comment, like, let me know, in the YouTube comments. And he commented, I'm like, all right, you'll get a paint over. I'm like, I got to arrange it and then we'll do that one. I'm like, got to get some more. I have to figure out a good way to drive a little more traffic with YouTube. It's growing, but to me, it's one of those things when if it's growing, then put more effort and work into it. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't want to I want to keep it growing and keep the momentum. It's like if I'm getting momentum, like keep that ball rolling. So, I've been doing just reading up on it more. And, I've been doing stuff with just like the paint overs. I want to keep that going. So I need like 5 and 10-minute clips that make sense with my channel. And I think I got a couple ideas. So I'm going to try to put out a few videos like that. I think they're going to be mostly kind of like tutorial driven or kind of, I'm going to do a time lapse like this and then pause it at certain stops and kind of give thoughts on how I'm approaching the process, and do that just for like little 5 minutes or 10-minute clips and explain them and kind of put that on YouTube. So.
Well, you're passing on your knowledge to other hobbyists that will take that on board and add it to their artillery of skills.
That's it. It's just like another perspective. And it's the same with like, hey, I learn a lot from the painting, so maybe some people will pick up stuff from that and everything. So appreciate it, everybody.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us, keeping us company. And yes, Leaky, you'll have to join us next week, although you can always Artists Empires YouTube and watch this again at your own leisure.
I'm gonna cut the I don't know how this is gonna end. So because
normally just point to the door and I leave. So
you're gonna want to cut out and I'm gonna cut out here, but I can't see if I'm out on YouTube yet. So I'm just gonna end here. Thanks everyone.